to another edition of E2C Network Live, albeit on the road, in the dark, but we're here. We're live to talk about a fan reaction live stream, Auburn versus Georgia State. Typically, just a couple things right off at the front, cover some boilerplate stuff. We don't do these typically for home games just because, as you can tell, lighting's not all that great. I'm doing this from my car before I get ready to, and the light messes up before I get ready to go home. But there's a few of you that were wanting to share some thoughts and things like that, so I figured we'd give it a try. I hope it's okay if that it's a little bit dark right now. But if you do enjoy this type of content, please help it out by smashing that like button, letting other people know that we're live, share it on social media, and we want to hear from you. No call-ins, because I don't have that capability from the phone tonight, and which is probably, honestly, a good thing tonight. I'll try my best to keep up with your comments and your questions, but so please do post them. If I miss them, just please understand that, you know, it's a little bit different tonight, and I'm really doing this mainly just because a bunch of you wanted to kind of get on here and have our post-game therapy session, as we typically do, even if we win. So here we are, and I don't have stats in front of me or anything like that, but I just kind of want to hear from you guys. Obviously, the big story from this game, thankfully, is that TJ Finley comes in and does some great things. James says, "What's up, man? What a nail biter." James, I don't know if you were here. You have no idea, like in the stands. And I will go ahead and say this tonight, and I'm already seeing some of those comics. If you make comments about players that you wouldn't say into their face, I won't be addressing you. So that's kind of how we do things here. We're not going to be like that. We're going to talk about the things that are productive and constructive about our coaches and our players and stuff like that. But we can be critical. Unbeaten Lake says, "I'm happy, sad, mad, excited, and frightened all at the same time." 100% agree with that. I am all of those things as well. You know, again, this is just our reaction show. A lot of my reaction, a lot of your reaction. When we sit down on Monday on our live stream, and I hope most of you can come, we're going to break more of this down in detail, stats, all that good stuff, and talk about the future. But this is just kind of initial stuff right here. But I'm all those emotions as well. I'm confused. I'm trying to figure all this thing out. The good thing about these games is it's okay to be a little bit emotional at the outset of it. But you got to step back and start looking at things in their context. And that, even I was trying to do that after the game with some friends and family members that I was having dinner with. You got to start looking at, okay, what did we learn in game 1, game 2? We learned a lot in game 3, and I think there's a lot of confusing things from Georgia State that happened. And I think there's a lot of context that's being left out of the emotions of those situations. I'm trying to keep up with some of y'all's comments here. There he is. John Stokes is in the house. Good to see you, John Stokes. He's a channel member. Thank you, guys. If you're interested in becoming channel members, you can check out links in the description, hit that join button, or just check out those other links there. There's ways that you can help support the content that we do here, albeit dark and somewhat random content that we're doing right now. And I'm getting thousands of notifications and messages from people about things about the game. So I'm trying to manage all that. So please do bear with me since this is kind of on the road. Let's see. Oh, Devin just found the channel. Love it. Appreciate it. Glad you, nice to see TJ Finley step up. Yeah, it was very nice to see that. Embarrassing till the end, John says. It was very embarrassing, and I don't think that is too unfair to say. The other side of that equation, though, I would say, is how good was Georgia State? Hear me out. And maybe we'll talk more in detail about this. Was Georgia State a lot more impressive than they were billed to be? My gut says probably not, but you got to give them credit. For a 3 3/4, well, really 3.5 quarters, they came to play, and they did not let off. In the last half a quarter, they started playing not to lose, and that's how they lost. More on that later, but you got to give them credit. But it is embarrassing in terms of losing to a team, or potentially losing to a team like that. Reminded me of the 2017 Mercer game, but we all know that how that season turned out. You can, you can split hairs and you can make these comparisons, that compare. I don't think it's unfair to do that, but you also have to keep it within its context and say, okay, well, this is just, it's a different year altogether. I wouldn't venture to say that we're going to have some magical year. After this moment, everybody wants to say, oh, that's going to be your LSU moment, like in the 2013 season. Everybody was saying that about the Penn State game. I wouldn't go that far. Clearly, we've got some issues to work out. But overall, there are a lot of things to work on with this team, as we found out. Let's see here. It's always a little bit troublesome to try to keep up with comments and stuff on this one. Stereotypical Auburn fan says he thinks Bo will be the starter at LSU. However, I think Finley should be the starter moving forward. I also think Finley should be the starter. And let me go ahead and say this right out front. I'm a big Bo supporter, and I think Bo's still our best option overall, one game aside. Let me just go and remind a lot of you. Everyone who was being reasonable said Bo had a decent game, a pretty good game, considering all what he was fighting against Penn State. Bo had a bad game. I actually just ran into some people here walking to my car on campus, and not just them, but we were talking through things like, yeah, did you realize he was hurt? And I was like, well, I kind of thought so, but at the same time, I hadn't really heard anything. He's like, yeah, he's been playing with that gimp shoulder. And now thinking back on some of those throws and looking back, especially at that first throw that he threw that was kind of like really high and out of bounds, I was like, that throwing, it seemed like he stopped, like it almost hurt, but I didn't think anything through it. So will Bo get the start? That's up to the coaches. And if the coaches decide that they're going to go with Bo Nix, then you need to trust them, because clearly they made the best decision tonight, right? They said Bo wasn't getting it done. Put the next guy up. And they were right. How cool is it, though, that if TJ does end up getting the start for LSU, the story, it's almost like they scripted it. I hope we get to see DC Vlogs, who's an LSU fan who pops into our channel from time to time on live streams this week. Let him share his perspectives on it. He was not a big fan of TJ Finley. A lot of LSU fans are not, although I would say with their quarterback injury issues and stuff like that, they'd probably be very fond of him now. So we'll see. We'll see what Coach Harsin says. He's going to put the best guy out there he thinks gives him the best chance to win. Clearly not a great game for Bo. And I think personally, even being a Bo support and thinking Bo is the best option for us, I think TJ obviously, clearly earned the start going forward. I can be fair on that. Let's see. Let me back it up. Auburn Elvis says, easy game, never was worried. Yeah, I'm sure. If you were cool, calm, and collected during that, Elvis, then I need whatever you're taking, because I was not. Let's see. Sorry, guys, trying to keep up with the questions on here. Let's see. Georgia State. I'm trying to hang on one second, guys. Georgia State lost to Army by 33, lost to UNC by 42. Yes, we looked like they really want to win, but that was inexcusable. Yeah, I guess. Sorry, I'm trying to keep all these things straight. I guess it's inexcusable to a certain extent. I wouldn't be so final with those type of statements personally, but that's just me. Oh, come here. I think it's my sweaty, I know this is gross, but my sweaty fingers trying to keep up with all these questions on here. So we might have to skip over a couple. I apologize. Larry, I 100% agree. You guys, most of you, those of you that are new to the channel, this may be the most awkward way to get introduced to me, but I have been a big, to a flaw, honest person about this offensive line. And I've told so many of y'all since day one, Auburn's success goes through the offensive line. If you need any more proof of that, I submit to you this game. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Doesn't matter if we put Kalen Newton out there. Who's Kalen Newton, you say? If that offensive line cannot figure this out, you will have more of Georgia State. I promise you. We haven't even talked about defense yet. There are much bigger issues than quarterback. Big, big issues. Okay, a lot of you are starting to arrive. Thank you guys for being here. As a reminder, please do smash that like button if you like this type of content. Again, thank you for your patience with the darkness, randomness. I'm surprised that the Auburn signal and Wi-Fi is actually maintaining tonight. It is quite a shock, actually. Hate it for Bo, but I think it's probably time for a clutch game-winning drive, 99 yards down the field. Hey, how about when the guy put that ball, the punter for Georgia State, on the half-yard line? I mean, you couldn't have just had the worst possible scenario. I was speechless. I was sitting with some friends and family. I couldn't say anything. I was like, this literally can't get any worse. And it almost did. But because it took a 4th down for us to get that touchdown. But thankfully we did. So, yeah, Stereotypical Auburn fan says, so if Bo was injured, never should have played him to begin with. I think that should tell you something. And listen, I'm not just trying to be sour grapes here about being a Bo fan and a Bo thinking he's still our best option. I think that should tell you something. The coach, if he was injured and the coaches still put him in there, that should tell you something, that they're not as confident about TJ being the guy. However, TJ went out there and produced. And you cannot be upset about it. I can't be upset about that. It's great. So I think that should tell you something. Georgia State coach complained that the refs bailed us out with that completion call on that final drive. Thoughts? Great question. I have not. All I've gotten is the Jumbotron angle, which one look at it looked like it was fine, maybe a little questionable. The other angle looked bad. But then we were talking in the stands about it, and from our perception, the reason why they kept it is because it looked like he's got his hands under the ball, and yes, it moved, but there was not a definitive angle that showed that the ball touched the ground from our vantage point. Now, you at home may have had something different. Did Auburn get bailed out? Well, of course, the opposing fan is going to say so. Did we not get bailed out by some very, very poor non-calls on pass interference? Yes. So we can sit here and argue every day about refs. We all know they suck. We all know the SEC refs are terrible. It's just something you got to live with. They're not going to do anything about it, apparently. It kind of evened out again. This time, though, the bad call for one team was not us at the end of the game. But it was a little surprising, I will admit. Pleasantly surprised. Let's see. Way behind here. Thank you so much for sitting in your vehicle and bringing this content. This means, oh, no problem. I love doing this type of stuff. Like I said, I don't normally do this on the road games just because I know the lighting's not great. I know I'm not as prepared and just kind of off the cuff. But hey, we just went through, HEW hockey sticks and back. And it kind of needed it, right? So I'm not above kind of doing things on a whim for you guys, especially if you show up like you are. So thank you guys so much. The game gave me an indigestion. Yes, it's me as well. Yeah, Sam, I don't really care what Alabama is at this point. I'm just glad we got the win. And being like, even 4 years after he left, the Herb Hand curse still looms on the offensive line. And I cannot stress that enough. I agree with you completely there. I don't know if you're just saying that because that's kind of what I've been preaching, or if you actually feel that way. But you are seeing the dying effects of the Herb Hand decision by Coach Malzahn. Again, for those of you that are new, huge Gus Malzahn guy. Didn't think they should have fired him. But I will fully admit his worst decision, which he made again at UCF, was hiring Herb Hand. And I was ecstatic about the Herb Hand hire when it first got here because he's a great recruiter. Clearly not a good coach and a good piecing together. of an offensive line, because these are the last of his guys. And I hate it because I don't want to sit here and disparage single guys out. When I talk about these guys, I talk about them as a unit, because that's what they are, and they have to work together, and they're not working together well at all. They're not creating holes for the running backs. They're hardly protecting the quarterbacks. I mean, TJ, my gosh, how he survived that, I don't know. It was very impressive. The overthrows got to be corrected by all of them. And I think I did see a clip of TJ addressing that after the game and saying, he called out and he said, somebody asked him, one of the reporters asked him, what was your mindset going into that fourth down? And he said, actually, I was very upset with myself because of that overthrow. I'm going to correct that. He specifically said, I'm going to correct that tomorrow. Great mindset. Love that. This is, again, and I've not done a lot of studying, looking at it and stuff like that. Apparently, Bo might have been hurt. That could have had something to do with all the overthrows. Let's not even like treat that as truth until we can look into it. Wow, this thing's not rolling up here. We got to hit some deep balls to free the running game. Too many times wide receivers are open and overthrown, and also they're dropping it when they're wide open too. Happened a lot tonight too. There's the problems abound everywhere. This is what you get in a transition year. This is what we wanted. I mean, this is what everybody said they wanted with the transition to a new coach, a new regime, all this stuff. This is what happens. This is not a plug and play where it just magically works. It just doesn't. So that's kind of what comes with it. Where's Demetrius Robertson? On the sideline where he needs to be. And I don't mean that in a mean way. In my opinion, he's the future of Auburn's quarterback. This is not the year for him to be out there. We've got two quarterbacks that are very capable, despite what you may think. Talking about both Bo and TJ. And it's not his time yet. Let him redshirt. Let him learn, get stronger, faster. And let's let these guys figure it out. And then we'll use him. That's it. Now, if TJ tanks and Bo is hurt and doesn't do it better, then you might have to. But I would prefer to keep him on the sideline at this point. Yeah, Imani, we're not gonna. You're kind of being a little bit. We're not gonna worry about that. But hey, we won the game over a horrible. But hey, we won the game over a horrible team. I guess you're saying we figured out some of the problems. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the way I approach this game coming into it. Is that we really needed to work through some of those issues that were displayed themselves, and clearly we tried to. A lot of my questions were why we were not running the ball more when Bo was clearly struggling. Honestly, a lot of Bo's struggles tonight can, in my opinion, at this point, just kind of looking at it, be put on the coaching staff because they were putting him in some bad situations. Now, you can actually make the argument that the coaches may have done that on purpose to see if he could handle it. And if they did, they got their answer and they made the right call. We don't know. We are only speculating. It's okay to speculate as long as you admit that you're speculating about this. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what most of you are doing. Come here. Where are we? Okay, there we go. The defense first half to second half was dramatically different. It was. Again, it's why it's important not to react over emotion, because I was upset with the defense, and yeah, they stood up in the second half and did what they were supposed to do. Problem is they put us in a bind. And now the offense, again, when I say one thing put us in a bind, I'm not negating that something else didn't put us in a bind, right? All I'm saying is that they put us in a real bad way, and they had one of the worst halves of defense that I've seen by Auburn in quite some time. So remember when we all were sitting there in preseason and saying, oh, this is the best defense we've had in quite some time? Looking at a lot of you that said that. Does it look like the best defense we've had in a long time? Clearly not. So, through 4 games, we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot what we are. We've learned a lot what we're not. We are not the best defense we've had in a long time. Offensive line still has major issues. Quarterbacks still haven't figured it out. Wide receivers show up and then don't show up. Running backs are good. They're just not getting any support. Linebackers are pretty solid. Defensive line, and defensive backs, that's the most surprising thing. But that's just my initial reactions and stuff like that. All right, let's keep rolling through some of your comments. We'll do this for a few more minutes. Backing it up. James Barnett, channel member. Thank you so much, sir. I may have missed an earlier comment. Demetrius. Okay, if he was talking about Demetrius Robinson, yeah, where is he? I don't know. It's hard to be disappointed when he hasn't been, except for one game, really that much involved. There's a reason. We're not privy to the reasons. But hey, can we all give some credit to Kobe Hudson and Shed Jackson? Can we please all do that? They tonight showed, and Kobe too, and I want to go on the record here, and I think I was very calm when you guys saw me on the live stream last week. I was very upset with Kobe Hudson about the fumble, and what I interpreted to it was a response that to me at the time didn't feel appropriate from him personally. Take it all back. The guy responded to adversity in that game after he did it, but tonight as well. I think he had the most receptions, 70-something yards. Shed came up not just in the touchdown, but in some other big ways as well. We've been looking for who the leaders are going to be, and I think you found them. So whoever said earlier had some questions answered. Yeah, we did. Now, does those questions will they still be the same answer for those questions later on in the season? We don't know. But right now, if you need stability and a surety somewhat at wide receivers, look no further than Kobe Hudson and Shedrick Jackson. For the most part. Everything's not an absolute. Let's see here. Okay, again, I apologize if I'm missing a lot of your comments and questions here. But we're going to just try to keep most of them here. You can say that the drive can be somewhat lucky, but you also got to look at that 2-point conversion. I'm not understanding what you're meaning about the 2-point conversion, in terms of it being successful or things like that. Should TJ be the starter, Jack? We addressed that a little bit earlier if you missed that. Yeah, I think he won it. I think he won his opportunity to be the starter. Do I think he's still the best option for us? No, I don't. But that's just because I'm looking at a larger body of work for Bo, which he's been pretty decent over time. Has he been great? Probably not, but decent. Whereas TJ's body of work at LSU and here, his body of work here, not very long, so it's hard to make a fast judgment, and that's why I'm cautioning you, the people here that are part of our little family, the Auburn family. Let's be excited for TJ. Let's support him, especially if he gets to be the starter next week. He's going to need it. But let's not make quick, rash decisions saying he's the guy, because you'll find yourself potentially in 2 weeks' time having to eat those words. Kobe Hudson's the best receiver on the team in terms of talent and pure ability. I don't know about in terms of pure talent, but in terms of reliability, that's something you can't teach. John says, yes, next week will be interesting, I hope. LSU doesn't look good. We don't look good. There's a great story there if TJ gets the start, so it will be interesting. A couple more questions here. You're still not convinced this team is gelling. Still believe Bo is a bit of a prima donna on the sidelines. I didn't see what you were talking about, so I think, I don't know a great way to say this. I think everybody's opinions on Bo right now are just best left. It's kind of like one of those things. A lot of you have been calling for this, and if you get TJ is the starter next week, you kind of need to just let it go and stop worrying about taking digs at Bo. And I'm not calling anyone specifically out for this, but the same crowd that wants to point and blame something and poke fun at somewhere is the same crowd that's so obsessed with seeing Coach Malzahn lose now. So let's let it go. If TJ's the starter now, if he's not the starter, I'll be shocked too. But we'll see. Again, this is all just off the cuff stuff here, just kind of reacting, no stats, looking at all that kind of stuff. We need Owen back next week. Him and Zachary are vital to the offense. Yeah, I think they'll help with a lot of the pass rush, but yeah. TJ for Heisman, not quite. At least we didn't end up like Clemson. That's true. You don't like the look of the defensive line, both scheme-wise and talent-wise. Lots of winging it and freelancers. It's a confusing comment. You guys are better off with this new coach, and yes, Gus still shouldn't have been fired. Teddy from Texas, that is a confusing statement because it sounds like you're saying we're better off, but he shouldn't have been fired. Help me understand the logic of that thinking. I agree, I think. I don't know. Both things can be true. I guess so. I guess they can be. If you're coming from the angle that I said that he shouldn't have been fired in the weird year, yes. But are we better off? I don't know that we can say that yet. Give it another year. Give it 3 years. We can make that judgment then. Rise Life says, I want to see Auburn win. We can do this and just believe. Of course. But you got to produce. You can't just believe. Bo is an incredible athlete, but not the greatest quarterback. That's all right with me. Got to trust the coaching staff and make the right call. Absolutely. Yeah. I've been supporting Bo and saying these good things about him, and still think he's the guy right now. That doesn't negate what he's done wrong. Bo did. I want you all to hear me loud and clear. Bo had a terrible, terrible game. But let me again remind you how much we were all applauding him for his game against Penn State and in his games earlier this year. You can't be that way. You can't be, oh, wow, he's improved. We hate him again because he had one bad game. But one bad game, you can't just let them have it and not as the coaching staff, make a change. So I applaud them for seeing that, hey, this isn't working. If we're going to get out of here without an embarrassing loss, we got to try something different. And I would have, honestly, if they weren't going to start running the ball more and they hadn't made the quarterback change, I would have questioned them a lot and say, what, was just no one available? So, again, all speculation, initial reaction, stuff like that. All right, go ahead and get your last minute comments, questions in. Joe's in the house, good to see you. So if we lost to Georgia State, would that have been the biggest upset in the franchise? Absolutely not. No. I think we lose to that was more embarrassing than that. I know we've had to have had something more embarrassing than that. The running backs did good. I don't think they did good, actually, Rise Life. I think they, but a lot of that's not their fault. They did about as well as they could considering what they had to work with. So, kind of, again, get your last minute comments and questions in. Smash that like button if you haven't. And by the way, if you are new to the channel, I know a lot of you said you're new. Please hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you're interested in helping support our content. Hit that join button, become a channel member. You can also become a Booster Club member. It's like a step further, same price as becoming a channel member. You just get more exclusives. And there are different tiers you can go to on that. All the ways to support and connect with us are in the description. So we'll kind of start wrapping up here in just a second. Be safe in your ride home. I appreciate that. I will do my very best. You guys are kind of helping me work through some things before I drive home. I hope TJ Finley surprises. I think we all do. He surprised us today, right? Not sure how the coach kept his cool on the sidelines, John says. I think coach was so worried about being the guy that lost to Georgia State, it's kind of hard not to lose your cool. So, I don't know. You know, there was not a lot of processing of other things going on in my mind other than how do we get out of this game. I was not too worried about coaches' reactions and things like that. I understand what you're saying to say about Bo, but in order to be a solid quarterback in this league, you have to be consistent. Bo's been consistent up to this point this season. Now, if we're going to talk about over his entire tenure, yeah, you might have a case that he's been inconsistent. But if we're talking about this season, he's got 3 games of quality meaning, and I guess we can differ a little bit on that, production, and that would, to me, does not indicate not being consistent. 1 bad game is not inconsistent. Now, if he has this bad game, if he loses, and then we put him back in, it keeps happening, at like a good game, a bad game, then that's inconsistent. But 1 bad game for this season is not inconsistent. Let's see. But hey, it got me a good run around the yard. Hasn't happened since 2013. Did you make it to Mama Goldberg's? I did not. I actually went to Jimmy John's. It's kind of blasphemous. I couldn't convince my friends and family to go there. They were not fans of Mama Goldberg for some reason. So I Jimmy John's it up in downtown tonight. Lots of good options to eat, though. Never seen a quarterback that big escape a tackle like that. Have you ever seen Cam Newton? Sweet shirt, yep. So you can get these on our TeePublic store, and this is a sticker from today, so ignore that. But yes, that is our logo. There's other stuff there as well if you'd like that. That does help support the content. I think there's actually a pretty decent sale going on there right now. By the way, one of our channel members, Doug, I've sent you an email. Make sure you get back to me on that as soon as you can. Devin says he could tell Harsin was frustrated. Wouldn't you be? And I could hear it in his voice in the post-game. I have not had a chance to watch that or listen to that yet, so I'm going to probably listen on the way home just to kind of process some things myself. Harsin does his non-cool in the locker room at halftime, I bet. I bet. Thomas says, hashtag E2C for live. Appreciate that. Looking at his AQ, talking about Bo, looking at his AQ career, I love for him to be successful. Hope I see it before he graduates. Well, I would say the way this looks to me right now, and I've said this a lot, that I think that this is, Bo's last year, regardless of how it went. And we won't get into that tonight, but if TJ gets the start and he does well against LSU, you're probably not going to see much of Bo the rest of the season. So I think this probably was a turning point. Doesn't mean that I don't still think he's not the better option. Just looking at the facts. TJ earned it. I can be honest but fair. Rob says if Finley starts next week, we win. Now, how do you know that? Did you watch TJ last year? LSU. There's a reason he didn't start against LSU. Now, I'm not just trying to take shots at that. I'm just, I guess, Rob, what I'm trying to say to you in your comment, definitive comments like that, be careful with those. Just because TJ's the quarterback doesn't mean we win. Just because Bo's the quarterback doesn't mean that we would lose or win. Depends on how you do. Bo has had 3 pretty good games. He had 1 bad game and nearly cost us the game. TJ does not equal win. TJ equals different, which may be what we need to win. It also may be what makes us lose later on the road. If the defense shows up, Rob, is a great addition to your comment, and I have no disagreements with that. Arkansas won. I knew they were winning, but we were too busy with our thing. Yes, we are all ready to beat LSU. It's got to happen. WT Gardner says, I'm digging Harsin as a head coach. He's going through some pains to get the team that he wants and not what he inherited. It's a good way to sum that up. I'm begging, and I'm not speaking to people specifically, or even people that are here necessarily, but I'm speaking as a collective for those that might hear this. Auburn family, patience. You have to have patience. And that might mean you don't get the magical season that you hoped would happen in the first season. It might mean that. It's looking more and more likely that the 8-4 prediction that I had, and I was actually at considering 7-5, might be more likely, and you might need to be okay with that. But yeah. Just saw the spark from the other players when TJ got in the game. Did you notice? Well, of course. Bo hadn't been doing good. If you bring the other guy in and he does a few good things, it's really going to spark that. I'm not trying to negate that, but I don't think you can say that that was the thing that is why TJ should be the difference, or should be, that makes the decision that he should be the quarterback going forward. Of course you're going to have that. If you're doing something that bad and something gets you a little bit more success, you're going to jump on that and you're going to really rally behind that. I'm not okay with one loss. Well, Imani, that's not realistic. It's not. Let me rephrase that. It is okay to not be okay with losing, but you have to realize it's going to happen. And it took me a long time to get to that point too, so I understand where you're coming from. It's not realistic to not expect a loss. Top to bottom, you guys are talking about the Big Ten now. We got so many problems, we don't got time to worry about them. Seriously, Rob says, seriously, 2 years and 3 games, Bo should be a polished quarterback by now. Question. Was Jason Campbell a polished quarterback after 3 years and so many games? I would argue 2 games, I think, into the season. No. And think if you took that statement and applied it to Jason Campbell, where we would be today. Just think about it. I'm not saying that Bo's going to have that same type of story, because I think TJ is going to get the start now and probably keep it. Just my opinion. You can't assume that things go the way that you see them going, that you want them to go. Bo's trajectory might be much different. For example, Nick Marshall came to Auburn. Never in a million years did someone think, even Auburn fans, think he was going to turn out to be the amazing quarterback that he was as a former defensive back. And now you're talking about the most underrated quarterback in Auburn's history, in my opinion. It's my most prized autographed ball that I have. So, what if they had written off him? What if we had written off Jason Campbell? Just think about it. You also got to think that Bo's had not only a new just like Jason Campbell, a new offensive coordinator every year, gone through COVID, a head coaching change, regime change, and you expect him to be a polished, perfect quarterback after all that, especially after most people blame Malzahn on why he is the way he is now? I think that's unrealistic. I need to be nice. Don't bring up Daniel Cobb around me. Plainsman says, where's Brandon Marcello at when we need him? I mean, you can go find him whenever you want to. He's online. Let's see. When TJ came in, their hands got real sticky. Yeah, it did. Seemed to line up nicely. All right. Can we get some thoughts on Penn State and the Big Ten overall? I'll be honest with you, this week I haven't really paid attention, or this day I haven't paid attention to how the Big Ten's doing. I think Wisconsin got pretty beat pretty bad by whoever they were playing. Penn State seems at least legit in terms of being a top 10 level team right now. Ohio State seems to be beatable. Michigan seems to be a little bit better. But I guess in that sense you would say it's a little bit down. But I haven't watched it as thoroughly. I'm an Auburn fan. And by proxy, an LSU-focused guy. So my thoughts are going to be a little bit limited on the Big Ten. All right. I do have to go, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Impromptu live stream. We had a great crowd. If you enjoyed this type of content, if you disagreed with me, I hope that you'll smash that like button and join me Monday. We will do an official grading breakdown of this game, and boy, will it be fun. Ooh, it'll be fun. And I mean that sarcastically. Hope you can join us and be part of that. And then on Wednesday, we'll have a live stream previewing. Will be LSU game. There'll be some other videos coming out as well throughout the week about LSU and stuff. Got some ideas and things like that. Tons of podcasts coming out too. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere really. And you can also get them here on YouTube. And like I said, consider becoming a channel member if you can. $1 a month is all it takes, or a Booster Club member. Links are in the description. Thank you guys so much. War Eagle, we got the win. A win's a win, right? My goodness, I'm so glad that game's